Ouch, was that a ghost?
Ouch, was that a ghost?
With Liz.
And Lee.
This is the story of a double murder. Transcripts of the trial and newspaper articles have been looked at by thousands for over 100 years, including historians as well as true crime enthusiasts. It's one of the most mysterious and infamous murder cases in American history. Main suspect of the case was born on July 19th, 1860 in Fall
Come on.
River, Massachusetts, to Andrew and Sarah.
I'm on the edge of my seat. What the fuck is
You
this
don't know?
about?
I was just
No.
giving you all clues.
I don't know.
If you haven't figured it out, it's Lizzie Borden.
Dun, dun.
See, you know it, but it's still a good story.
Know it. It is. I was barely listening the day we went on the tour, so I have a hard time listening. Go.
I've noticed. So in articles, it's said that most people believe that Lizzie is guilty, but I'll state the facts and let you come to your own conclusion.
Guilt?
You think she's guilty?
Guilty.
So a quick little background on each person in the story. There's Andrew, who was Lizzie's dad. He was born in 1822, and he grew up struggling financially, and he started building his own wealth through selling furniture and caskets. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. It said in one article, to save money and to cut corners on the caskets, he would cut the feet off of corpses so it would fit in easier.
That's so gross. Oh, those poor people.
I know.
I hope no one had an open casket. They were like, did he die like that?
Was he 5'2"? So he then moved on to real estate and became the director of a textile mills on top of it.
I think that's better suited for him.
He also held multiple positions in local banks. It seems like he was not well liked in town. He didn't have many friends, and he made a lot of enemies because of his business deals and just overall demeanor.
And probably cutting their family members' feet off, but all right.
Yeah, that doesn't usually make a lot of friends, but what do I know? So Andrew had a good chunk of money, but he didn't like to spend it. His residence on 2nd Street in Fall River showed this. While people of his financial means usually lived in the affluent area known as the Hill, he chose to live in an area near the mills and factories so he could keep a closer eye on his businesses.
Yikes.
Andrew refused to get indoor plumbing, even though pretty much everyone was getting it. It wasn't like a flying car today. It was like just getting Wi-Fi.
And now you know the motive. Now you know Lizzie's motive. All right,
solved. Thank you. His daughters pleaded for Andrew to move to the Hill, as it's where all the social events were held, and that would allow them to socialize with the higher class and be able to marry. And the girls also pleaded for plumbing because they were tired of using buckets, which the maid would have to empty. They'd go to the bathroom. Imagine being a maid in that time.
So gross. Smelling other people's feces and imagine dumping it and getting all over your shoes. Ugh.
I can see if you had to do it, but like he chose this. That's so gross. And what are you going to do when you die? You can't take your money with you.
Yeah, but that's how you stay rich. You know what I mean? Poop in buckets. You're going to save your money.
I have a new financial plan. Thank you. So while Lizzie had minor disagreements with her father, mostly about his frugality, that caused them to be like social pariahs. But by all accounts, she was devoted to him, and it was implied that she was his favorite. Neither one had like a really good relationship, either of the daughters, with the father, but Lizzie was the favorite.
At least they have a dad. Mine never came home.
Alicia. He doted on her more than anyone else. He would buy her expensive clothes. He would buy her capes. Isn't that funny?
Capes? Like Superman cape?
Yes. Fancy capes.
I bought my 3-year-old nephew a cape for his birthday.
Lizzie got one too. And he'd buy her trips. And Lizzie would even steal. She was a klepto. She would steal from stores in town, and Andrew would pay the store owner the value. She'd go in and steal just a cape.
So she thought no one knew, and her dad was really right behind her, like, here you go. Lizzie's back at it again. Like, she wasn't a very good klepto.
No, and it was just like an unwritten rule that, like, you know, at the market, she'd go in and steal shoes or whatever, and then they'd be like, hey, when they'd see the father, they'd be like, hey, Lizzie stole these, they were this much money, and he'd be like, all right, here you go.
Yeah, I know. That'd be the last guy. That's awesome.
So he was known to be super stingy, even down to the food the family ate. Andrew would leave mutton stew and swordfish for days, and he would just make the family eat it until it was gone.
That's freaking disgusting. That is disgusting. I would secretly pour it in my fucking bowl of feces.
Pour it in the bucket.
Yeah. Like, oh, Dad, that really got to me this time. You smell that?
It's so gross.
Ugh.
But imagine swordfish for days, and they only had an ice box. They didn't have like a working fridge. So by the end of like the afternoon, the ice. Do you know how ice boxes work? They basically
they melt.
It's like a cooler, and then the ice melts, and then you just have a warm fridge. So you have swordfish and mutton just sitting in there.
So gross. And they're wondering why they're sick at the end of every week. Ugh.
Yes. So he was estimated to be worth about $500,000 or about $10 million today.
Oh, wow.
At the time of his death. And then there was the stepmother. She was the other victim, Abby Durfee Gray. She was described as a plain woman, and one article described her as short, rotund, and fairly shy.
Rotund. Sounds like something I described my mother as. No, I'm just kidding. Kidding.
But imagine the newspapers, they had like zero chill on how they described people. And in the newspaper, it also said she was happy to have found a husband at the spinster age of 36.
Yikes.
So Andrew married her 3 years after the death of his wife, who was Lizzie and his other daughter's mother, Sarah. She died of uterine congestion and spinal disease.
What the fuck is uterine congestion? You keep sneezing out your pussy? What?
I don't know. That, exactly what you just said.
That's what one would assume.
You're studying to be a nurse, right?
I am, yes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, so I believe you. So Lizzie did not take to Abby, and she thought Abby was only with her father for his money. Lizzie is said to have called her mother for a while, and then a few years before the murder, she started calling her Mrs. Borden as like a slight. And then there was Emma, who was Lizzie's older sister. She was about 9 years old when their mother passed away, and Emma promised the mother to always take care of Lizzie. Lizzie was about 2 at the time when her mother passed away. And Emma and Lizzie had a pretty average childhood for the time. School, church, Sunday school. And there was John Morse, Lizzie's mother's brother.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was maybe William Andrews.
Maybe.
An illegitimate son. Because there's a lot of articles that say that he 100% existed, and a lot say there's no way he existed. He was completely made up.
He definitely existed. That doesn't just come out of thin air.
I think he did too. But then there was the maid, who was 25-year-old Bridget Sullivan. She was an Irish immigrant who the family called Maggie because it was too much work to learn a new maid's name. And Maggie was the old maid's name, even though she'd been employed by the family for over 2 years now. Isn't that such an asshole move?
So fucked.
So Lizzie was the baby of the family, and she lived at home at the time of the murder. She was 32 years old. I always think of her as younger than 32.
I know. Before I actually learned the story, I always thought she was a kid or like a teen that fucking butchered her parents, but I had no idea.
So do you think she did it?
Woman. Yeah, I think she did it. Well, I don't think she did it herself. I feel like I don't know.
Well, tell me at the end what you think.
All right. Yeah.
So at 32 years old, she was considered a spinster at the time, as every woman was back then. So just to throw out one of the rumors also around town is that they said she might have been a lesbian, and that's why she didn't get married. Whether she was or wasn't, who really cares? But Lizzie was very active in the church. She belonged to many organizations. She loved philanthropy, which she continued to do for her whole life. She was more of an extrovert than her sister, and she really enjoyed the social scene. She was known to be very mature in some ways and very immature in others. Like, she knew how to act, but then she would just randomly throw tantrums as well. Like, she just seemed like a spoiled brat.
And she also stole and had daddy pay for it. So
That was so funny to me.
I think she was stuck in her teenage years.
Yeah, I think she had something going on.
She
So
definitely did. You don't throw tantrums at the age of 30.
32.
Yikes.
After you're robbing the stores and having daddy pay for it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Imagine she actually did have something, and of course they would sit there and cover it up unless they threw him in like a insane asylum. But you then
Lobotomy.
Oh, don't do that.
Which? So fast forward to 1892. This was the year the murders took place. It said this may have or may not have happened, but in May, Lizzie built a little house, a roost for her pet pigeons, and Lizzie found all of her pigeons that she kept in the barn all chopped up. She confronted her father, who said, "Oh, I hatcheted them so all the kids in the neighborhood wouldn't come by to hunt them." Like, what an asshole.
Right?
So Miss Alice Russell testified later in court that Lizzie came to her the day before the murders, and Lizzie told her she felt something bad was going to happen to the family, and that burglary attempts happened, and that their father made a lot of enemies who wanted to harm them.
So I wonder if she was warning that she was going to do the bad act.
See, on that, I feel like it could be like a premonition or a warning, or it could just be like, you know, when something happens, they'll be like, "Oh, well, this happened the day before," and just made up gossip.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know how I feel on that statement.
I guess you got to take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Did I use that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So the Borden's house was full of tension in the months before the murders. Andrew had started buying real estate and giving it to some of Abby's family members, specifically Abby's half-sister, who was given a rental property. The girls thought they were being slighted, so Andrew sold a rental property to his daughters for $1. It was actually their childhood home that they lived with their real mother until she passed away. Maybe it was too much for them to handle, or maybe it was just the fact that all the rent that they were getting had to go right back into the house for repairs. But they ended up selling the property back to their father for $5,000, or close to $170,000 today. Like, that's a good deal. They bought it for $1 and sold it back to him for $5,000.
That is a good deal. Why were they were they complaining?
No, I'm just saying they made like $170,000 today off of that deal.
Yeah, if I was their dad, I would have been like, no, I'll take my $1 back, thank you.
She'll be like, I'll steal some more socks. So now we're in July of 1892, and some kind of family blowout happened, and Emma and Lizzie took off to New Bedford, Massachusetts. Ever heard of it? For a little trip.
I think so. That's near Fall River, right?
Yes. And when they came back, it said that Lizzie didn't go right home. She went to a rooming house for a few days before actually going home. And Emma stayed in a rooming house. Like, she stayed at basically like a hotel. Before they had hotels, they'd have rooming houses.
Just say fucking hotel. Why you gotta be difficult?
Because it was just basically like someone's house and they'd rent out a room. But she stayed there instead of going directly home. And her sister Emma was still in New Bedford at the time. So August 2nd, 1892, we're a few days before the murder now. And the whole house is violently ill. Abby she was a stepmother, was convinced that they were being poisoned. And I've read medical articles that explain this as food poisoning from ingesting contaminated meat. And they had meat on Sunday. Remember, no fridge, only an ice box. And when you put food in the ice box, it stayed cold for like a few hours. Then you get into warm whatever. And this was during a heat wave. So
oh my God,
we're talking like almost a week old soup. Getting all kinds of bacteria every day. And Emma and Lizzie were the only ones who weren't violently ill. Emma was still out of town and Lizzie wasn't there. That's why probably they didn't get violently ill.
Right.
So Abby actually went across the street and told the doctor about her fear of being poisoned by one of Andrew's business enemies. And FYI, they had some nice and warmed fish for dinner of old mutton stew. I saw fish online, but the tour guide that we saw said it was mutton stew. So basically, she went across the street and told the doctor she thought she was getting poisoned. So the doctor basically said, just stop eating old food.
Common sense.
So on the day before the murders, Lizzie was seen at Smith's drugstore where she tried to buy prussic acid. She told the druggist, I love that word, the pharmacist. They were called druggists. She told the druggist she needed to clean a cape. You know how she wears capes?
I mean, is she wrong though? Is this really sketchy? Like, she probably had a few.
So the man refused to sell prussic acid to her because it can be used for cleaning, but it can also be used as a poison.
I'm sorry. All I can picture now is like, regardless of what her alibi is about to be, I think that it's a lie, and she was really just running back and forth throughout the house, letting the cape fly behind her while everything was going
from
on.
room to room.
It's all I can picture in my head now. I have no idea about the capes. They left it out during the tour.
It's really not an important part of the story, but I just thought it was so funny, and that's why I had to keep putting it in.
People need to know. People need to know. Because things add up when you can just put everything back to this cape. Like, she did this, yes, but it was for the cape. So it's like, oh, all right. Well, it couldn't have been her then.
If she painted a big L on it.
Everything's changed now. I don't think she did it at all. I think she was caping.
Could have been. So during the time Lizzie was staying at the rooming house, John Morse, who looks exactly like Abraham Lincoln, he was her uncle. He was staying at the Borden's house. Why can't I speak right now? He was staying at the Borden's house on the evening of August 3rd. It said he was there to discuss business about a property. Okay, let's.
Yikes.
One more time. English, Melissa. English. Okay.
You got this.
So it said he was there to discuss a property transfer or some kind of business deal with Andrew, and there was tension. So this is the day of the murder. At 6:15 a.m., the Borden's house started. Bridget, the maid, went downstairs to the cellar, and she got the stuff to start the stove, like the coal and the wood. And she went and got the milk from outside, and the house started up for the day. John Morse, the uncle, Abby and Andrew had breakfast together. Emma is still away, and Lizzie is now upstairs. So at 8:45 a.m., John Morse left through the side door, and he was invited to come back later on for lunch at noon. He left to visit another niece and nephew in town, and of course, he had to buy some oxen. So, that's not funny to you?
That he had to buy some oxen?
Yes. He's like, I gotta go visit my niece and nephew, and I have to go buy some ox.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's funny anymore.
So
the only thing going through my head is that damn cape.
Capes?
All the different activities she must have done with it. There's just so many different activities you could think of.
Yes. So Andrew then got ready, and he left for his morning walk. About this time, this was close to 9 a.m., Lizzie came downstairs to the kitchen, but not for breakfast. She wasn't feeling very good. So she just sat there. What?
And threw a tantrum at the table?
So she just sat there. I know. The tour guide told us that she was ironing handkerchiefs, if you remember, at that time.
Oh, right.
And Bridget was told to go and wash the windows inside and out on this super hot day. And remember, everyone in the house is feeling like garbage due to poisoning attempt or old room temperature fish, whatever.
And don't they have a maid? Why is she sitting there washing windows? And why is the other?
No,
why
Bridget.
Is Lizzie?
Bridget is the maid. She's the one that was told to go wash windows, but Lizzie was ironing the handkerchiefs.
Why would Lizzie iron anything? They have a maid.
That was pretty common though, and like everyone in the house, the tour guide told us did different little chores around the house.
Okay.
So Bridget went outside to start the windows, and because she felt sick, she like vomited everywhere out there.
Right.
Abby the stepmother started dusting the living room. She then went upstairs to straighten up the guest room and make the bed, which was usually the daughter's jobs to do. But because Bridget, if you remember when we were there, the tour guide told us Bridget wasn't allowed in any of the bedrooms because she was an Irish immigrant and they didn't want her in their bedrooms.
Right. We don't want that shit to spread.
Yes. Irish is very contagious. So this is when Abby turned and she was facing her killer. She was struck on the side of her head, just above her ear, which knocked her out, and she fell face down on the floor in between the bed and the bureau. And this fall cut her nose and her forehead. The killer then gave her 17 more blows to the back of her head. This was somewhere between 9 and 10 a.m. Lizzie was supposed to be downstairs in this really small house where Abby was just axed and fell. And Abby was 200 pounds. just to put it in
Yikes.
perspective. So if you remember how small that house was and how creaky the floors were,
Yeah.
Lizzie claims to have heard nothing. But I've also read she may have been in the basement, which did have like a cement barrier. So maybe she couldn't have heard anything if she was all the way down there.
I mean, honestly, Lizzie, I could go both ways because, like, if she has a mental disorder, which is what it sounded like I don't. The way you're painting this picture, it really is like just the capes really threw me off. But the way you're making it, like the way you're describing the story, it sounds like
It's
Lizzie
important to
isn't.
include, though.
It is. It sounds like Lizzie isn't all the way there. So like, I feel like she is capable of doing something like this, but at the same time, I feel like she's also capable of completely ignoring her surroundings and being like la di da. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. And I just think of the silence too, because back then there wasn't like radios playing. Nobody was listening to like Channel 5 news.
Yeah,
Like
that's
nothing was
true.
playing. It was just a silent house.
And there's no way you didn't hear like a yelp or something like.
A thud, anything, I don't know. But at 9:30, a treasurer of a nearby bank claims he was talking to Andrew at the bank. So other people recounted talking to him as well, and the last person stated it was 9:55 when they had a conversation, and then Andrew left the bank. So now we're at like almost 10 a.m. And at 9:30, John Morse was still off visiting his niece and nephew in another part of town. He arrived at their house at 9. This was like before he bought the oxen. So at 9:30, Bridget is getting stuff from the basement to wash the windows, and Lizzie is at the back door. And Bridget is going towards the barn, and Bridget says, "Don't lock the back door," probably because she's going to go in and out getting stuff for the windows. So now we know the back door was unlocked. Bridget's washing story is confirmed only because around this time she's said to have spoken to Kelly Girl, who was like a neighboring maid at the fence.
Yeah.
And a neighbor claims to have seen Bridget washing the windows somewhere between 10 and 10:30. Bridget claims to have gone back inside at about 10:20 to start the inside part. At about 10:30 a.m., Andrew came home after his walk, and a few people corroborated this, and his neighbor even said she saw him at the front door between 10:30 and 10:40. And he was like fumbling. He put his key in the front door, and for some reason it didn't work, so he had to knock. Bridget Sullivan tried to open the door, but it was jammed, and it said that she swore in Gaelic. Huh?
I said, what the heck? Like, why is it jammed?
Well, that's the thing, too. It was, when he left, he was the only person that would lock, and he'd lock one lock. But there were 3 locks on the front door, but the 3 were never used. You know how sometimes you have more than one lock on your door, but you only use one?
Right.
And all 3 were locked. So Bridget was sitting there fumbling, trying to get them undone, probably because they weren't used very often.
Right.
And she swore in Gaelic, and Lizzie said she heard Lizzie at the top of the stairs giggling because she swore.
It was Lizzie.
But she didn't see her. She just thinks that that's where she heard her laughing from.
Right.
But you couldn't see her if you were standing at the front door anyways. It's like around the corner to see up the stairs.
Right.
And this matters because at this point, Abby was already dead. And the door to the room where Abby was murdered would have been where Lizzie was standing if she was there laughing. And during the tour, the guide had us walk up. I forget if it was 7 steps or how many. I could be wrong. It could have been like 5. And then
I remember, yeah.
Yeah. He was like, walk up this many and then turn your head. And he actually laid on the floor where Mrs. Borden would have been.
Yeah.
And Lizzie denies being at the top of the stairs, and she said that her father asked where his wife was, and Lizzie told her father that Abby received a message to visit a sick friend and was probably there. But
It was
no
Lizzie.
note and no sick friend was ever found.
Okay, it was Lizzie. This is why I always thought it was Lizzie. All right, fuck the capes. It was Lizzie.
But to play devil's advocate, Lizzie, if she didn't turn her head and she was at the top of the stairs, if she just looked straight, she wouldn't have seen her. She would have had to turn her head to the right.
Regardless, there were 3 locks locked. Lizzie was the only one inside. And there was no note. There was no evidence that she received word that someone was sick.
But what about the cape?
Yeah, she was probably wearing the fucking cape.
So the blood is another big thing of contention. And if Lizzie did it, how could she have changed in that time? and had no blood on her. Some people say maybe she did it naked while she was committing the murders and then after got dressed. Do you remember him bringing that up?
Yeah.
So at 10:40, Bridget claims that Lizzie and Andrew went into the other room and spoke low. I didn't get what that meant, if they were whispering or arguing, but they spoke low.
Okay.
Andrew is then said to have gone upstairs to his bedroom, and then he came back down. Bridget Sullivan then testified that Andrew laid down for his nap like he did every day, and she helped him remove his boots. Now, some say that this is contradicted by the photos that were taken by the police, because Andrew was wearing boots, but our tour guide said that the police put the boots back on because it was very improper for a man to be photographed without his shoes on. So the police, it's so gross. Imagine seeing a man in socks. So the police took it upon themselves to put the boots back on. So at 10:45, a woman nearby claims to have seen a man by the Borden's fence taking pears. An unknown man. And at 10:45 also, Lizzie takes out the ironing board and puts it on a kitchen table and tells Bridget of a sale at a store and about a note that her stepmother received about visiting a sick friend.
Oh.
A man at this time observed an open buggy parked near the Borden's house by a tree, like an unknown man. And at 10:55 a.m., Bridget in court stated that she went to lay down after she spent the morning cleaning windows and she felt sick. And Andrew had him clean them anyways. But just a side note that Bridget wouldn't have walked up the same stairs where Abby was. There was stairs up by the kitchen, which a maid would use those stairs instead of the main stairs.
Mm-hmm.
So she wouldn't have just walked by the room.
Right.
Between 10:55 and 11, Andrew was murdered as he napped with 11 blows to his head. 11 a.m. passes because Bridget hears a nearby church bell chime, and Bridget claims just before 11:10, Lizzie yelled upstairs, "Maggie, come quick, Father's dead. Someone came in and killed him." Remember, Maggie's Bridget because they suck.
Right.
So at 11:10, Lizzie sends Bridget to fetch Dr. Bowen, who lives across the street. Bridget rushes over and then runs back to the house, and she tells Lizzie, "Oh, he's not home." So Lizzie sent Bridget to get Alice Russell, who was a friend and a neighbor. And FYI, there were Irish and French doctors in the area, like all next door, like a house over this way to the left and right. But they wouldn't go because they were Irish. So they didn't want Irish doctors.
That's nice.
Anyways, not that they could do much, because if you see the crime scene photos, there was like nothing left. His eyeball was literally hanging off, and his face wasn't even really a face anymore.
So gross.
At this time, Mrs. Churchill, a neighbor, saw Bridget running and a stressed out Lizzie by the back door, and she asked, "Is everything okay?" And she went to the side door and talked to Lizzie for a bit. She was like, "I'll be right back. I'm going to go try to find a doctor." So another man saw Mrs. Churchill run to a paint shop and phone the police. And at 11:15, the police arrived. A minute later, the doctor returns home and rushes over to the Bordens, and he speaks to Lizzie for a minute and asks Lizzie to fetch a sheet. So a sheet was fetched from upstairs. This was when they went up and they found Mrs. Borden face down in between the bed and the bureau. And the front door they saw was bolted from the inside. So they started searching the house, just like a quick perimeter to see if there was anyone in there. The closets, hiding spaces were checked for intruders, but nothing was found. At 11:20, the uncle boards street... Get out of here. I have a cat trying to walk across my computer. At 11:20, the uncle boards the streetcar back to the Borden's house. The police leave, and they left officers posted by the back door. And the doctor sent a telegram to Emma, if you remember, she was still in New Bedford, to Lizzie's sister. And at 11:35, John Morse arrived at the Bordens and went directly to the backyard. He just sat outside and he told the police, like, "Oh, I learned about the murders through the maid." And didn't go in the house, didn't check anything out. He just sat back there and just like ate pears.
But what did he drive?
He took like a trolley car back, like public transportation.
Right.
So Bridget then brought the police downstairs to where the axes should be, and they just did a quick sweep down there. And while the police were doing their investigation, they were looking to see if there was a place for the killer to hide. And there was one Deputy Francis. He climbed up a pile of wood in the backyard and climbed along the top of the fence. It was barbed wire fence. And he just kind of shimmied himself across it and nobody saw him. So he was just making a point that somebody could have snuck in and out and not been noticed at all. So you're thinking about this. So it's still the case. So at 12:25, Lizzie's interviewed in her bedroom. And during the interview, she was asked about her mother and her father, and she was quick to correct them and was like, Abby is not my mother. And Lizzie was given a sedative, which that's kind of like if you're in the middle of this big investigation, you had to point that out right then and there.
She is not my mommy.
Yes.
Yikes. It was Lizzie.
So people were really put off by Lizzie's lack of tears or sentiment of any kind, but the tour guide told us that they were pumping her full of morphine. And over the next few days, some of the interviews she had, her answers were changed or contradicted themselves. But remember,
she was high out of her head.
Yeah, exactly. So the inconsistencies seemed to be what drove the suspicions towards her. But again, drugs. So Lizzie also told the authorities how she saw a man with wild eyes in the area that morning, and she didn't recognize him. That same day, Emma hopped on a train from where she was in New Bedford to rush back to her parents' home. The constables were posted at the house, and then in the middle of the night, one of them saw a lantern go down the stairs to the basement, and they watched Lizzie scrubbing something in the sink. And when she was asked what she's doing, she said, oh, the fleas were biting, which is another way of saying that time of the month, like she had her period. So the man was like, oh, okay, bye, and like ran away, because that's very scary for a man.
It was Lizzie.
Are you forgetting the cape?
Listen, I remember the cape. And I also remember that Lizzie's the only one who's sounding suspicious as hell.
So the next day, while Lizzie was in the house, her friend Alice came over, and Lizzie pulled out a dress and said, oh, this has red paint on it. I got to burn it. So she burned it, and her friend Alice watched her do this. And then after, she was like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. Like, she waited until she was done. And then Alice later testified about this in court. Not until 3 days after the murder was a full interview done, and Lizzie claimed that she was ironing. And another time she said she was in the barn making a weight for a fishing rod. And another time she said she was going to fix a screen.
And another time said that she was decorating her cape.
Yes.
What the hell? It was definitely, this is why. It was Lizzie.
There was a lot of changing stories, but morphine.
Yeah, she was high as hell, but like everything else just doesn't make sense. Like, it just doesn't, like, how would a killer know? Like, oh, they probably have extra locks and I bet they're not locked. Let me go lock them. Like, no. But you left the back door open. It doesn't even make sense. No, it was Lizzie.
The autopsies of the Bordens were performed in the dining room on a cooling board, which was what autopsies were performed on before. If you go for the tour guide pulls out an autopsy photos of the skull, and he asks, like, can you tell if this is the male or the female? And at least half of us couldn't tell which one was what, because the skulls were so, like, obliterated. So after 5 days of the murder, the funeral was held, and people really didn't like what Lizzie was wearing. They considered it very inappropriate. She had a lacy, tight-fitted black dress with no veil, which was very scandalous for the time. I'm sure this didn't help her case. And she wore colors right after the death of the Bordens, which at the time, you were supposed to wear all black for 1 full year.
Yeah, but if she wasn't mentally there, all the way there, then I think she could do what she wants.
And morphine. So a second autopsy was performed a week later, where they took the heads off and they literally boiled down the heads.
Why?
So they could keep the skulls as evidence. So that means somebody's job was to boil down the heads.
And they used a kitchen pot. And they probably cleaned and put it right back.
With mutton.
Oh!
So the house now has replicas of the skulls in cases in the dining room. August 11th, this was after 5 days of closed-door inquest where Lizzie and Bridget were testifying, and Lizzie and Bridget's stories contradicted or changed constantly. John Morse was also called to testify at the inquest. That was her uncle. Mm-hmm. And he was very, very detailed on his alibi, with small details that a normal person probably couldn't remember. Like, if you took a streetcar, would you remember every single person's name on the streetcar?
No, that's when you're, I feel like when you're lying, that's when you add all this
Mm-hmm.
extra detail that you don't need to.
That's
So I think
exactly
I think Lizzie handled the mom, and then to be safe, he handled the dad because the dad would be stronger.
maybe. But
And they
he
would
went
definitely
in
get on it together.
and he said the streetcar number, and this was before cell phones, so maybe he was more vigilant and paid attention to his surroundings, but I think you're right. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, just a weird side note, but the judge ruled probably guilty at the inquest. So
Probably.
now
We'll
we're
see.
most likely. So we're now 7 days after the murder, and Lizzie was arrested and charged with the murders of her father and her stepmother in her home. This garnered heavy media attention. People started swarming the house outside. I can't speak today. I'm sorry. People would swarm the outside of the courthouse. It was, I think of like the Johnny Depp trial. Like everyone's out there. But it's said that during this time, Emma went to go visit Lizzie and they were overheard arguing. A matron overheard Lizzie say, "Emma, you have given me away, haven't you?" Which is a weird thing to say. Like you're a
Who?
snitch.
A
Emma, her
merchant
sister.
said that? Oh,
No, a matron. A matron is like
matron.
a female person that's like
Oh,
in jail cells. The matron's the one that would watch the females.
okay.
About 10 months have passed now, during which time Lizzie was sitting in a cell, and on June 5th, 1893, the trial began. The newspaper called it the trial of the century. The jury of her peers were chosen. So they were described as 12 mustached men who, side note, after the trial, they all went and got a picture taken and gave it as a gift to Lizzie.
Oh, that was so sweet. So considerate of them.
So they were all men because women couldn't serve on juries at this time.
Right, they're
So,
too dumb.
yes.
They couldn't possibly,
Yes.
come up with the conclusion of guilty.
And a lot of people say that Lizzie played into this. She wore flowers and pretty dresses and acted very meek. And the newspapers ate this up. The public was fascinated by this case, a woman on trial for such a brutal murder. Some thought it was her and John Morse. Some were the other way, where they made a big deal over the fact that Lizzie didn't cry at all. But again, they had her all morphined up. And Lizzie's
Mm-hmm.
defense argued that Lizzie had no motive. No murder weapon was found. There was no blood. But really, how could you tell if it was cleaned up at that time? Because think about back then. If you clean all the blood, you didn't have UV lights to check for
Yeah.
blood spatter.
Mm-hmm. She was in there scrubbing. She also
Yes.
burnt the evidence. So
But her friend told her not to do it after, so.
there you go.
And a woman can't brutally murder anyone.
No,
They only
especially not one that
poison.
wears flowers.
Yes. Which some people did think she tried to poison, if you remember her trying to buy the prussic acid, but some people
Oh,
think
yeah.
she definitely did not. Like it was just so split down the middle. Well, the prosecution tried to blame Lizzie and her stepmother's relationship and show how Lizzie would inherit all of her father's wealth because of Abby being murdered first. Because the order that they died really mattered. Because
Really?
if the stepmother died first, all of her assets would go to the father, and then they would go to the daughters, like to Lizzie and Emma.
Okay.
But if the father died first, his would go to her, to Abby, and then Abby's family would get a big chunk of the money, and Lizzie and her sister would get less.
Right. Mm-hmm. It was in.
It was even argued that Lizzie's father sexually abused her, which there was no evidence of, but the tour guide did mention that as well. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
And after this comes the witnesses. The police brought up a bucket of bloody water in the house. Remember when the constable saw her go downstairs?
So they collected her period water?
No, they brought it up, like talked about it. They didn't bring the
Oh!
bucket of water.
Oh my god, I was like, they went down and grabbed the bucket before. Oh! How long is that? That's been sitting there for 10 months?
They were boiling skulls, so I wouldn't put it past them.
Ugh, so gross.
So Lizzie blamed it on menstruating. But side note, Bridget said it was not her time of the month. And as a maid, she was the one that cleaned that stuff up.
That's true. Oh.
So during the trial, the dress became a big part of it. Bridget testified that Lizzie had a blue dress on the morning of the murders, and Alice Russell, she was the one that was there when she burnt it. Her testimony really zoned in on it, how Alice stayed with the sisters after the murders and saw Lizzie burning a blue a blue dress that was paint covered
It
in
was
the kitchen.
Lizzie.
And Lizzie told her it had red paint on it. So Alice originally lied about this and said all the dresses were still in the house, and then she changed her mind during the trial and told everyone about the burning.
Well, yeah, she was probably sitting there trying to cover for her, and then was like, "Fuck, I'm really living in here with an axe murderer. I'm fucked." Yikes!
She
Wow,
probably
this was
stole her
Lizzie,
stuff.
right?
So after the trial, the sisters and Alice never spoke again. Knowlton said in the original transcript, "Where were you, Lizzie?" And Lizzie replied that she was reading something in the kitchen in an old magazine, which was another change of the story. And she said she wasn't sure if she was in the kitchen or the dining room. And then he said, "So you definitely didn't go upstairs?" And she was like, "Oh, yeah, I did go upstairs to get laundry." And then later he was like, "So where were you when your father came home?" And she was like, "I was in my room." And Nolan tried to verify it and asked again. And she was like, "Oh, I can't remember." And this continued through the whole trial. If you read through the transcript, it's so all over the place. He brought up about the sick friend that Abby supposedly got the message from and went to go see.
Mm-hmm.
And, they never found anything. And do you know how long the prosecution's closing argument was?
How long?
Just guess.
A minute.
5 hours.
What?
That's crazy. And
Why?
I have no idea. I didn't get the full transcript on the closing argument. I read through all the rest of the court transcripts, but not that. And he brought up the fact that each time the maid left to go outside or upstairs, one of the Bordens died. 15 days later, after the trial began, she was found not guilty. The jury was in agreement almost immediately, and our tour guide said that they just sat around for a while to make it look like it didn't take a second to decide. And it said that all the jurors would go and visit Lizzie at her house for parties. Lizzie did give Abby's family some money, just a side note. So now Lizzie and Emma had $500,000 or $10 million today.
Shit.
I read in one place that Lizzie got caught shoplifting after this and had to pay a fine and some money to the store. But now she's a millionaire and she has to pay back herself. So Lizzie was now a free woman. And Lizzie, after the acquittal, changed her name to Lizbeth. So nobody would recognize her name. Lizbeth Borden, not Lizzie Borden.
Right. No, that definitely wasn't her. No, it's not me.
She stayed in Fall River, being ridiculed for the rest of her life, and nobody would sit next to her at church. The children
Really?
in town...
Even after the name change?
No, I don't know how they figured it out. The children in town would ring her doorbell at all hours of the night, and the little punks would throw eggs and little stones at her house. They even made the song. Do you know that one? The Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks.
I do know.
And when she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41.
Whoa.
Okay. Well, she lived with her sister in a new luxurious mansion on the hill where she wanted to live before, and she named the mansion Maplecroft. It had 7 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms, working bathrooms. She could use a toilet now.
It was Lizzie.
So this was on the hill, the place that Lizzie and Emma wanted to live their whole lives. She could buy what she wanted when she wanted. She could travel where she wanted. And she had a live-in traveling buddy, a female. So her house was gorgeous. She even had a car, one of the first ones. And she had a gas pump at her house, probably because there weren't really cars back then. So where would you get gas?
It was definitely Lizzie. Are you kidding me? She finally gets to live the life she's always wanted. It was 100% Lizzie. I don't even understand why this is still in question to this day.
So Bridget, the maid, was given a sum of money to go back to Ireland, and to never come back. And after some time, Bridget did come back to the States, but not to Massachusetts. She went to Montana. She ended up marrying a man named John Sullivan, no relation, in 1905 and settled in Montana. She never spoke of the murder again. And Bridget, when she was 75 years old, went to live with her niece, and she suffered a health scare, and she called for her childhood friend, Minnie Green, to come rush to her side to get something off her chest. She said that she helped Lizzie out at the trial, and then Minnie was going to come back the next day because she was going to say something else to her, and then Bridget was on the mend, and she didn't want to talk about it anymore.
What the hell, man? Why? Why? come back, I'll tell you the rest. Like, I'm here now. Tell me now.
So Minnie was sworn to secrecy of what was shared with her, and Minnie kept that promise until Bridget passed away 6 years later. Elizabeth kept a small circle of friends, but she threw some pretty awesome parties. She loved theme parties, and they
Samesies.
right? And they lived together for 12 or 13 years until an argument occurred. I don't know what the argument was, but it caused Emma to move away to New Hampshire, and she never spoke to her sister again. They lived alone to their deaths. And Elizabeth passed away June 1st, 1927 at 7th at the age of 66 of pneumonia. One account said that Elizabeth had a I'm sorry. Everything about her is so funny to me. She had a guest list for her funeral, right?
Wow.
And then she sent out the invites.
What?
And then when everyone came to the house, they were like, no, actually the funeral's on a different day.
Oh,
How weird is that?
what the hell? That is so... They all did that in a spite. Like, no, this bitch isn't getting her fucking the date she wanted. The hell?
So the day Elizabeth died, Emma fell down and broke her hip. She passed away 9 days later from complications of the injury, and Elizabeth left a huge chunk of money to animal charities.
Oh, wow.
So to this day, the murder is unsolved and people still speculate. I'll list a few of the theories now.
Doesn't matter. It was Lizzie.
Some people say it was Lizzie and Bridget. One theory is that Lizzie and Bridget were intimate, and Abby found out and threatened to tell Andrew. Think of the time back then.
I don't think so.
End well. Or that Lizzie and Bridget just did it purely for the money. And then after the murders, Bridget went off on her own. She had some money and she owned a huge farm. Bridget alone is also a theory because of how they treated her. Did she snap?
No, it definitely wasn't Bridget.
Do you remember how they treated her there, though? She lived in the attic. It was a hot attic. She
Her
was
and
forced to
every
clean
other
the
maid
windows.
back in the day. Oh
But
my gosh, she
he
was
used
forced
to-
to clean the fucking window. She was a maid. That was her job. Like, I know, like, I'm not saying, like, it was right to treat them the way that we treated, not we, oh my God. It's not right to treat them the way they were treated, but, like, you were a maid. That was your job. You knew you were going to be treated like shit, unfortunately, but you continue to do it for the money. You know, who knows what her story was.
But
So
he
it's
was kind of extra cruel, though. If you remember, he used to lock her in the room when he was mad at her, and she was up there. So now you're thinking this is a heat wave. She's sitting up there with a bucket. You poop in the bucket, and you're sitting in the sweltering heat in a tiny
I'm surprised
room.
she wasn't more sick. Wow,
That was
I don't
just
know.
gross.
It was still Lizzie.
So Lizzie and Emma is another theory. And this scenario relies on the fact that Andrew abused his daughters, which there's no evidence of. And Emma was clearly out of town at the time, so I'm not really buying that one. Although the order of killings would benefit them the most. By killing Abby first, like I said, the girls would get the most. They'd get everything.
I think it was all Lizzie. I think, and that's probably why Emma moved away and never talked to her again. Like, at the end of the day, your family, you're my sister. I'm not gonna rat you out, but I want nothing to do with you.
So then there's another one, the half-brother theory, the possible man, William Borden, who's someone who I can't find a paper trail on. This is purely speculation, but they wouldn't keep a paper trail if it was an illegitimate son either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was speculation that Andrew had a 26-year-old illegitimate son who tried to get money, and he thought he had the right to it, but he couldn't extort Andrew and Abby, so he ended up killing them. Then there's the wild-eyed man that Lizzie and several other people in the neighborhood told the authorities that an unknown wild-eyed man was in the area the day of the murders.
That could have been the son.
Could have.
But at the same time, why would the son have left the girls? Like, if he wanted the money, he would have killed the girls too. No? Because then wouldn't the money just go to them?
It was all like part of it. Like, you do this and you send me this.
Yeah.
I don't know. So Lizzie claims to have seen him in the morning while locals saw him walking around after the murders. John Morse was another theory. The only problem is that he wasn't at the house during the murders, according to his alibi. But his alibi, like I said, was like, I was on trolley number 327 and I spoke to this person who was sitting in seat 1.
He
Like,
could have just had like a photogenic memory. Who knows?
Maybe. So then there was Arnold Brown wrote a book called Lizzie Borden, The Legend, the Truth, the Final Chapter. In this book, he claims that the illegitimate son, William, did exist, and it was common knowledge. But as most scandalous things of the time, it was never talked about. In the book, it has a theory that Andrew, who was changing his will, was giving his daughters less than they thought that they deserved. So Lizzie reached out to William to try to talk some sense into their father, and William came by the house, hence the crazy-eyed man. And he already couldn't stand Abby, so he wanted his mother to be Mrs. Borden. The illegitimate son wanted his actual mother to be married to Mr. Borden and not Abby. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but
And
still,
while at
it
the
doesn't make sense.
house, he was waiting for Andrew to get back, and the author speculates that maybe Abby told him that he had no chance of being written into the will, and William took his axe, which he always walked around with a bag and carried an axe with him. He was known to do that,
Dun,
and
dun.
maybe he waited to talk to his father. Maybe they fought, or he was dismissed, and his rage took over. And the author also speculates that Lizzie gambled that she would be acquitted, so they wouldn't have to share the inheritance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the Borden's house is now a bed and breakfast. You can spend the night or just do a day tour. You can also purchase a basement tour, which while you're down there, you can still see the bloodstained ceiling. They offer. Can I tell you this was supposed to be a mini?
Yeah, we're past that.
Okay. So they offer a cemetery tour, which is like a scavenger hunt. They also have a ghost hunt tour where you split up into groups and they try to catch some evidence. And they even have virtual tours, which has mostly time appropriate furniture replicas. Like, obviously, the couch is not the same, but most of the wallpaper is done over as well. They do have original radiators. They have a broken plate and a frame on the wall. And they have a Borden Bible there, but it's not 100% sure that that was the Borden families. It could have been like a cousin's or something. It just said Borden.
They do also have like those EVP catcher things in the gift shop. Don't buy it because you can buy it half off on Amazon.
Oh, is it a lot cheaper?
It's
And
so much cheaper.
they have the dress that Elizabeth Montgomery used to play Lizzie in the Legend of Lizzie Borden movie on display there as well. And as for the door in Bridget's room, the door was original as well. And while we were there, the guide told us how this is an attic room, no AC heaters. And Andrew would get angry at Bridget and he would lock her in there. Remember, no indoor plumbing, hot days, use the bathroom, you smell in it. So now on to the haunting. The house has made a list of the top 10 best haunted houses worldwide. The house is said to have been haunted part-time by Lizzie, who was seen at the Maplecroft house as well, where she lived after her acquittal. And Abby and Andrew are said to have been seen there. And sorry for the side note, I know you hate this, but it's pertinent. Lizzie had a great uncle, Ludwig. Could you say that?
Yeah. Good old Uncle Ludwig.
Yes. So he was known by a lot of names, but I'm going off of what his tombstone had. So his brother was Andrew's father. So Ludwig was his uncle. So Ludwig had 4 wives in his lifetime, and he lived right next to one of the Bordens. While his second wife, Eliza, this is trigger warning, took the life of 2 of her 3 children, and she took her own life. There are different versions of how she did it. I only mention this because on the 2nd and 3rd floor of the Borden's house, children are heard occasionally playing. There's even a toy room where people leave toys for the children to play with.
I'm not gonna lie, that I did touch. I sat in that room and I kind of moved the toys around, like, trying to play with them. I wasn't being disrespectful, but nothing happened. So sad.
But it's said by many the toys will be moved, and if you leave the room and you come back, they'll be in different places. But if you decide to stay in Andrew's room while visiting, it's encouraged to leave money, change works, or bills, and Andrew won't bother you as he's still seen roaming around. Another thing to mention is Andrew doesn't like it if you use the C word.
See you next Tuesday?
Cheap.
Oh.
Our tour guide suggested we not use it while we're in the house. I wish I could remember the tour guide's name. He was really good.
I know. He was awesome.
People have reported doors opening and closing on their own, and we actually saw some of these videos at the end of the tour, and there's a book of photos and experiences that you can look over, and a few videos of lights turning on and off and doors closing.
Oh, and also you forgot to mention, so if you decide not to leave, a nice little tip for Andrew, he'll follow you home and fuck your ass up.
Oh, yeah, he goes home with you.
He gets pissed.
Yes. So the house also is known for having mysterious floral scents that just appear. In the basement, there's a wall. If you take a picture of with the flash, many people claim to see a face on it. We took some of those pictures. I might post some of those. I didn't see it on Ghost Adventures, but I read that on there, one person claims to have gotten punched in the back of the head by Andrew.
Oh, shit.
Many people go and don't experience anything, and some people will go there and stay overnight and check out in the middle of the night. The house is currently owned and operated by U.S. Ghost Tours. So, what do you think? Are we staying overnight?
I think we should do an overnighter. We went on the tour. It really wasn't scary. It wasn't what I expected. I think we should do an overnighter.
You wanna?
See if anything happens.
We should.
I think we should stay in the children's room because they're just kids.
Sorry, this was supposed to be a mini, and I don't know what happened when I started this. I took
it's
out a
good.
whole page too. But it's like a classic. We're from Massachusetts. We have to cover that. It's like the rules.
True.
Yeah, but that's it.
I forgot about a lot of this, and I'm so happy you added that cape. And at the end of the day, though, regardless of what you say, all fingers point to Lizzie.
Do you think it was her by herself, or do you think she had somebody with her? And if so, her uncle or brother? Who?
That's where I'm I'm unsure. It was 100% Lizzie who did her mom, for sure. But I don't know. Because think about it. If Lizzie's mom had turned and it was someone she didn't know, she would have immediately backed up or tried to jump in bed or something. She wouldn't have stayed there and gone flat down. So it's like,
yeah, she knew the person. Her arms weren't raised or anything.
yeah,
she just took the
definitely
blow.
Knew the person. I don't know. When it comes to her dad, though, you have no idea if your dad's gonna wake up or what's gonna happen, and then it's a man. You're gonna immediately assume that he's gonna overpower you. So I feel like she definitely had a guy help her. I don't know, but I don't know.
But the maid would have been pretty strong too, because she was constantly cleaning.
I don't think the maid had anything to do with it. I don't know. I think it was all Lizzie. Do you
know something else on this that I forgot to put in there? You know how I told you she moved to the place on the hill, and she had a car and all that? She literally had this thing where you could pull your car up, and it was built into the ground, and it turned and backed your car in. So it was always turned around. You wouldn't have to back your car in. It would just spin it for you.
What the fuck?
Isn't that cool?
I need something like that. I can't back in for shit.
That has nothing to do with anything. Wow. I just was wow. She was extravagant.
You see how ridiculously lavish, what is the word? You see how ridiculously lavish she was? She wanted the craziest, most expensive, best of the best, things that people, even with her type of money, didn't have. She clearly wanted this so bad that she was willing to kill for it. It was Lizzie.
She did it all so she could take a number 2 and flush it.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the motive. That's the only motive you need.
Yeah, but that's it. That's the story. Bye.
Bye.
I don't know. Thanks so much for listening.
If you have a story you'd like us to share, email us at ouchwasthataghost@yahoo.com.
Don't forget to follow our Facebook page, Ouch, Was That a Ghost?